So hello, everybody. My name is Yoav Shoham. I was a professor for more years than I'm willing to admit, doing non-useful, kind of like non-for-profit research. But I have an applied side, so I've also dabbled in industry and current company, AI21 Labs, working in this area. And I was wondering what I could speak about that maybe you haven't heard a million times before. And the answer is probably nothing. But here's what I'm going to speak about. First of all, by way of background, we're about 5 years old, and my co-founders are listed there. And about 200 people, raised a bunch of money, really spent about 2.5 years just working on technology, but really wanted to be more than just a research lab. So we have two really business units. One of them is our own application called WordTune, really looking to reinvent how we read and write, and it's been going really well. All the graphs look like a nice hockey stick, and but we also have an enterprise offering, AI21 Studio, working with really quite a number of large enterprises doing stuff. And we're have a really close collaboration with both AWS and GCP. So that's just quickly about us. So here's what I won't speak about. I won't be able to speak about Midjourney and DALL-E and Stable Diffusion, and I won't speak about why it's a cliche today to publish an article written by AI, and why machines can code for you or code with you, or speech to text or text to speech. You know all this probably better than I do, and I certainly won't speak about what language models are and who are they around. Maybe just to note that it's incredibly hard to evaluate language models. I need to give a shout out to my colleague Percy Liang and his group with Helm, but it's a Herculean effort and really basically a thankless task. But I won't speak about that. Here's what I want to speak about. And so first, let me be clear that I'm totally bullish on this area, or I wouldn't be in this business. And there's so much interesting stuff going on, really useful. But I think some people tend to overlook the gotchas. And my fear is, so some people fear the AI will be too powerful. And I think one fear I have is the AI won't be powerful enough, and people will experience a backlash. So I want to speak about that. I'll speak about the downside that we all know, and what we're doing about it, and then a few words of where I think the industry is going, which I think is the neuro-symbolic direction. So that's what I'll speak about. Clearly, people are excited. This is the paper that made quite a splash about, was it about a month ago or 2 months ago? Our colleagues at Microsoft Research, very knowledgeable, sophisticated people, had early access to GPT-4 and were really smitten by it. The title of the paper speaks for itself, Sparks of AGI. I'm going to pick my battle, but for the record, I don't like the term. And figuring that it's strikingly close to human level performance. So a lot of enthusiasm. But all along there also been like but kind of statements. And if you go back way back in history and look at GPT-2 and 3, and here's some quotes. Percy Liang speaking about GPT speaking writing like a human, but not having a clue what it's saying. And I really like Timon's quote: "Flashes of brilliance mixed with gibberish." Doug Hiven, shockingly good but completely mindless, and Andrew also speaking about how they sound like politicians that have no idea what they're talking about. So there've been, and these are all knowledgeable people. So there's been that sentiment also. And now with the more recent models, alongside the gushing, coverage and predictions, there are also these gushes. I deliberately graded out because the point of this is that mainstream publications are speaking about the problems. And by the way, a lot of the examples have to do with whether it's GPT this or that, or Chat GPT, just because it's so dominant these days that it's that it's natural to refer to it. But whatever limitations I'm pointing out are endemic of all language models. So it's not picking on GPT or OpenAI in particular. And so the two salient failure modes, which I know you're all familiar with, are the fake facts and fake reasoning, or fake fact being hallucination. And I think we all have our favorite, funny stories here. This is my favorite one. So I've published a few books, and I asked. This is a short version. I asked in one of the books, an AI Techniques Prologue, who wrote it, and he gave me a very fluent, convincing answer, telling me that the author was a certain Professor Teixeira, published by Wiley, and so on. I looked up this gentleman. He seems like a fine person, but he didn't write this book. In fact, this isn't his area. It's very seductive, this very convincing prose, but not factual. And reasoning, again, well known. Give it a math problem that a middle schooler would do in their sleep. There's a share, it has a certain price, they went up by some percent, then went up again by some percent, then went down by some percent, how much is it worth now? And I actually find that there's no cynicism here at all, that the system can break it down, extract from it mathematical kind of calculations and do the calculations. It's not at all obvious that shouldn't have been able to do it. And they do it and give you the answer, which again, I find impressive. The problem is it's wrong. It just got the math wrong. And that's an example of just reasoning that simply God did not put neural nets on earth to do this. HP told us how to do arithmetic in 1970 with a calculator. So so what's going on here? Is this the term is a little harsh, authoritative bullshit, but it carries a punch. But regardless of what you call it, I can tell you that, and we've been working with many customers. If you're okay and maybe even brilliant 90% of the time, but nonsensical or just wrong 10% of the time, that's a non-starter. It kills all credibility, all trust, and you can't have that. So what's going on here? Is this almost AGI or just authoritative bullshit, or something else more nuanced? I have to say that I give credit to OpenAI, even though they're understandably push their technology and an application. Here's Sam saying when ChatGPT came out that it's a mistake to be relying on anything important. And later with GPT-4, that's so flawed, seems more impressive at first than after you spend time with it. So, some truth in advertising there. So what to do about it? Let me tell you what we're doing about it. It's basically two things. One is focusing on task-specific models. And this is something we learned, firsthand when we built our own application. And I'll just give an example to make it clear. And the other is insisting on what I call product algo fit, which is, of course, is a riff on product market fit. I'll tell you about that also. So just by way of example, this is one of our applications called Work and Read, and helps you read. And rather than TLDR the whole thing, it gives you sort of cliff notes on demand. You upload the PDF or the web document, and you'll get sort of summary snippets on the left that are smart both in what they decide to summarize and how they summarize. It's obviously not extractive, but abstractive summarization, and errs on the side of simple language with less jargon. So you can really scan the summaries at a tenth of the time you'd read the whole thing, and you can tailor the summaries to subject you care about, and so on. And the reason I'm mentioning this is it's an example of a task-specific model. So what is the model? It's at the core is a language model that's optimized, and it's not only fine-tuned, it's certainly part of it. Um, and um, and we learned from experience that the language model, even specialized, fine-tuned, and other techniques, is not enough. You need to do a bunch of stuff on top of that, various re-ranking, prioritization, other algo stuff to really, because a language model is basically Henry Ford selling you an engine, but you want a car. And so the high level of service we can provide you, the closer you are to having a car. And so this is what this had to happen to be a summarization model, and beside the fact that that it's the algorithmic performance is high, it's also small, and that makes the unit economics and the latency such that you can actually provide such an application. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to. And it works. So we have various statistics that show you that it's better than even a very strong general purpose language model that's been fine tuned or instruction tuned and various things, and it works. So that's special purpose models, which is something we put increasing emphasis on, and and the other thing, as I said, was product algo fit. So Wordtune Read helps you read, Wordtune helps you write. It's an app that came out about 2.5 years ago, and initially it had this feature of rephrasing what you wrote. Basically, the idea is that you have this nuanced thought in your head, and the chance that this poor sequence of letters that you said or wrote would capture those thoughts is zero. So we're here not to correct your mistake. We'll do that also as a side effect, but we're here to articulate something that comes closer to what you had in mind. But that's another example of a special purpose language model. That what I want to speak about is the product algo fit. And about 5 months ago, we released our first generative features. And here we made a conscious choice to be modest. And because we already had about 3 years ago a system called Haim, which did sort of similar familiar long form generation. You write a few sentences and it'll give you a whole blog post and so on, and it was actually a lot of fun. And a lot of the time you get wonderful stuff, and some of the time you get garbage. And we felt that wasn't a product. That was just a cool demo and a lot of fun to play with. It may actually still be up on the web. We actually had a system called Haim, then a generalization called Haim came that was on the web. Maybe still is. But that's not a product. What we opted for is something deliberately more modest called Wordtune Spices. So here you are in our editor, which is either a standalone editor or a Chrome extension. There's also a Word add-in. Now it's on mobile, and at any point in time, you can hit the plus button and ask for a spice. What's a spice? Well, it's one of several things. You can say, give me an explanation, give me an example, give me a quote, give me a statistical fact, give me a joke, all contextually relevant. And what you get here is bite size. It's like a few sentences, short paragraph. You can eyeball it. You can see if you like it. Very important, you get the provenance. You see where it came from. It came from the New York Times. It came from Wikipedia. It came from, Dad Say Jokes, whatever. And you can cycle through if you don't like it again. And when you're happy, you'll hit the OK, and it'll be inserted seamlessly. So that's an example of what we consider an appropriate product algo fit. And I think the idea is obvious. You have these machines, these algorithms, these systems that do amazing stuff, and they have limitations. So you as a product manager, it's on you to ensure that you craft the experience in a way that leverages the good and avoids the bad. And in particular, decide on the right division of labor between the person and the machine. And bearing in mind also the penalty for failure. So if you're writing homework and you want to write some kind of piece on World War II, and you want 3 pages worth, maybe if you make a mistake someplace, it's okay. For one thing, it probably will never be read anyway, but the stakes aren't high. But if you're writing a memo to a client or requesting a raise from your boss, you better get it right. And so there you really don't want to fire and forget, but you still want help. And this is how we opted for in this product algo fit that I was speaking about. And if in sort of consumer prosumer application, it's important in the enterprise. It's sorry about that. It's really key. And I'll give you an example so what we do is, in addition to the raw language models, so our models called Jurassic 2 recently came out. They're all instruction tuned, and there's light, mid, and ultra, basically reflecting the sizes. But then we have these Lego pieces that do special purpose tasks, like the ones I mentioned. And I'll give you an example of one of these. These are contextual question answering. And basically, contextual answers, are really the open book question answering kind of task, where you want the answer to be based on a very specific context. You have your company manuals, you have whatever, and you want the answer to be based on those and nothing else. And you want the answers also to be to point to the origin to further gain trust. So that's what this special purpose module does. And the way it works is, here's an example. This is one of our customers, a successful HR tech company. And on the upper right, you have what was always a simple search box. Now it's an ask me anything kind of box. And you can say, am I allowed to fly business? And you'll get the answer in language, of course, but it's based on the company's policy documents, and it'll point you to the document from where it was derived. That's an example of how contextual answers work. And there are more modules, each of them doing different things. So that's what I've said so far is, what we're doing today. Again, to recap, special purpose language models, or in general special purpose models, language model being a part of them, and sort of a attention to product algo fit as a product manager. And the question is this enough? This, of course, is a pun on the seminal paper, but basically is just have better transformers, or you need more than that. And if you are the yes camp, and there are people in the yes camp, it means you want more of the same. You want, so OpenAI taught us that, language models are like sandwiches, the bigger the better. And then Chinchilla came along and said, wait a minute, you also want to make the model size stand in some relation to the number of tokens, or basically the training length. Okay. And then companies such as Snorkel told us that it's not just more data, it's also better data. Then, a lot of discussion of longer context windows and multimodal models and reinforcement learning, whether based on human feedback or not. Retrieval augmented language models are a thing, and with the hope of somehow avoiding hallucination and focusing the answers in a certain way, and various forms of prompting, chain of thought, hierarchical prompting, and so on. And all of these are good stuff, and it's stuff we're doing and others are doing, and it's certainly something that will move us along. And still, our belief is that necessary but not sufficient. And I think it's, 5 years ago when we were saying it, I think it was maybe controversial. Oh, your old style AI people don't get modern AI. I think today it's more accepted. And what this means is, you can think of it in a historical context. Back in the 80s, probably many of you weren't around to witness it, but AI was very popular. Annual morning conferences, lots of investment. Then the 90s, the AI winter, we weren't allowed to admit you were doing AI, and now my plumber is doing AI, but he's a very different kind of AI. And back in the 80s, it was all about knowledge presentation, very rich semantics, inference engines, and so on. And machine learning was there as an intellectual activity, but didn't play an important practical role. Today, of course, it's a mirror image. What we do is statistics at scales that we didn't imagine, and we couldn't anticipate how much they do, and how much how far you can go along with it. There was this funny cartoon, probably you've seen it, of these slaves carrying huge, rocks on their backs, and their masters standing over them with whips, and the masters are all robots. And one slave says to the other, and to think it all started when we told them autocomplete. So it goes a long way, but I really believe that the future belongs to fusing the two and getting the neural machinery to do what it's good at, and let the symbolic computation do what it's good at. The big question, of course, is how. And I think we're seeing early signs of how right now. We a year and a half ago, we published an architecture and implementation of it, architecture called Miracle, MRKL, modular, forget what it is, reasoning and knowledge language systems, I think. And the idea was very simple and obvious. The neural machinery is not good at certain things. It's not good at arithmetic. Let's call a calculator. It has no idea what the time is in London right now. Let's call the weather.com API. So really, ChatGPT plugins are a version of that, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work because it's hard to be robust here. Now, when I say it doesn't work, it just doesn't work out of the box. You need to work hard to make it work, to robustify it. And we discussed in our white paper there a little bit about what the ways to do it. But that's a point in the space, and a rather obvious one, I think. LangChain kind of turns this on its head a little bit. He says, rather than the language model be the master here, it's a person to write down a script, each step of which would call a language model, and lets the output of each step feed into the next, and kind of a codifying chain of thought prompting. And it also doesn't work, naively, for a variety of reasons. So you could always, you sometimes very nice things will happen, and you'll see these cherry-picked examples, on the internet. But there are a variety of reasons why it's not that simple. Not only directing the operation in a way, and it's also just the efficiency of things. You have so much variance in each stage, and just to iron out the variance, you need to run the language model multiple times, and you can't afford that. And then they feed into each other, and you have this added kind of linear execution. So, but it's again, I think, a very interesting point in the space, pointing in the right direction. And of course, today, I think a lot of the excitement is going a step further, saying, hey, you LangChain people, the whole idea with the AI will do the thinking for us. And so let it program itself. So just specify the task, and it will break it down, recursively call itself until it figures it out. And here's really the examples here are really cherry-picked. fraught with problems to, and it doesn't really work as is, but directionally relevant. So lots more to say about it, but the last thing I'll say, and I know my time is up also, is that I'll just make a claim that within 2 years, I may be wrong in the time frame. It could be 3 years. I don't think it could be more. Could be faster. We'll be discussing AI systems. We won't be discussing language models, but AI systems, an important part of which will be language models. That's where I think we're going. And when we do that, we'll get both the benefits of the robustness and the creativity of language models and the reliability and explainability and controllability of traditional programming, and life will be good. So that's what I want to speak about. I want to thank you.